Gunspots.
Okay, are we back to clear? Everybody can hear me?
Yes. Does the Rav see the image? See the box now?
No.
Well, still not.
No.
There must be a setting it must be a setting somewhere.
Well, whoever could look for it.
Rabbi, at one point tomorrow, can we see how many people are coming, or are you just making the challenge?
What?
Tomorrow, you're just doing...
Well, no, we're having cold cuts challenge, and my wife is making a fresh potato kugel.
Got it, perfect. Mark's coming.
Well, of course he's coming. I told my wife...
It's not a question.
There's Richard Rosenzweig joining us, Shelley Zeitman, Ilya Schuttman, Moshe Lehman. Okay, I hope we should be all right now. As we come down the home stretch over here, and here in Shul, we welcome Reb Gdali Engel, my Shver. It's really nice to have you for the finale. Reb Kramer and Reb Goldstein, Reb Avram Schenkman, Reb Pesach Ziegelman. I think he's here. No? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we are holding by Daf Mem Chesed Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. 4 lines from the bottom of Mem Chesed Beis. Uposku Anshe Amana. And men of faith have ceased to exist. Men of faith. What are men of faith? What does that mean? Amar Reb Yitzchak, so Reb Yitzchak says, Eilu b'nei Adam she'mamidim ha'kadosh baruch hu. These are people that believed in Hashem. They believed in Hashem. They didn't have a problem of giving tzedakah. They weren't worried that they're going to run out of money. They believed that if they gave, Hashem will give them back. There were people that spent money on Shabbos and didn't worry, well, if I spend money too much, I'm not going to have money. They spent money on their children's tuition. They spent money on Yom Tov. They gave loans to people. The Tanya, we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Lazar Gadol Omer, Kol mi sheyesh li pas b'salei, anyone that has enough food in their basket, v'omer ma oichel l'mocher, what I'm going to have tomorrow. In other words, they worry about the future. Eino yela miktani amana. They're people of small faith. Now, of course, this is a very high madrega. This is madrega of Hillel, who said Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. Again, that's a very, very high madrega that like he said, we don't have it anymore. V'aynu damar Rabbi Lazar ma'idich siv kimi vaz l'yom. Vaz means buzz means it's a lashon of bizbeis. Mi kimi vaz l'yom. What caused the table of the righteous in the next world to be made less, like what we call menakem is chuyosav, deducting from the merit, lekatnus. Katnus. It's the smallness that were by the tzaddikim, that they didn't trust in Hashem that they would have for tomorrow. Migarim letzadikim she is bazbeis shulchan and la'asad that there would be deducted. Thank you very much. Your father is here. Deducted from the table. La'asad lavai. Katnis shaya bahem, the smallness that was by them. Shaloi heminu ba'kadosh baruch hu. They did not have enough faith in Hashem. Of course, this was the dar of the Amun, the Dardeya, where they didn't have food for tomorrow. They never had food. They had food for one day, and then they had to rely that the Rabban Yisrael is going to send them food tomorrow. Rava says, and this is from really tragic. Rava says, Elu kitane b'nei rishe Yisrael. These are the children of the wicked that die young. Sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom punishes the wicked, and their children die young, And so Rava says, when it says, Ki mi vaz liyaim, what makes less a person's gehenim? Katnus, the fact that they lost their children. Elu tane b'nei Rishay Yisrael, shemivazvizin din aviyim la'asid lavai. They make less the punishment for their fathers in the next world. Aimrim lefanav Rebbeinu Shalom. Me'achar she'ata asid liparei mehen. If you were going to give them full punishment, lama hikisa shineim bam, why did you knock their teeth out, blunt their teeth by taking their children? So that causes a diminishing of the punishment in the next world. Amar Rav Ilah bar Yevarechya, ilmolei tfilasei shel David, if it wouldn't be for the tefillah of David HaMelech, we learn from the Gemora in Brachos that Gedolei Yisrael are worried about the parnasa of Yidden. Because the Gemara in Brachos says that the Chachma Yisrael came to David HaMelech and said, Amcha Yisrael tzrichem parnasa. There's not enough to go around. People can't make ends meet. And David HaMelech first said, let them do business with one another. And the Gemara said, Ein abar mismalia mechol yasai, you can't fill a pit from its own earth. It's not enough. So we see from there that the Gedolei Yisrael were worried about the parnasa of Klal Yisrael. So David HaMelech was mispalel for Klal Yisrael, and that's what the Gemara says over here. Ilmalei tfilasei shel David, if it wouldn't be for the prayer of the David, hayu kol Yisrael moichei revav. All of Klal Yisrael would end up being grease merchants. They would end up selling schmaltz, which was, selling schmaltz is not a very bakovedika profession. Shenema shisa Hashem mora lahem. Please Hashem, place for them richness. Give them excellence to be able to be doctors, to be able to be accountants. So David HaMelech was mispal. When we daven in Ashman Esrei, we have a tefillah, ala tzadikim, vala chasidim, val ziknei sheres amcha beiso. We have to know how much we gain from Gedolei Yisrael. The Gedolei Yisrael pray for the benefit of Klal Yisrael. You see, we're quoting a lot of mamorim of Rabbi Ilah bar Yevarechya. Ilmalei tfilasei shel Chavakuk, if not for the prayer of Chavakuk, there would be such poverty amongst Talmidei Chachamim that they would have to share a blanket in the cold. Two people would have to hunker under a blanket. Shenemar, for it says, Hashem, Shamati Shimacha, I have heard about your stories about you. Yoreisi Hashem, I fear Hashem. Pa'alech, your work. Bekerev Shnayim, now literally the pasuk says, Bekerev Shanim, I heard of your work, and as Kerev Shanim, as years before, Chayeyu, give us life now too. However, the Gemara doesn't darshan it Bekerev Shanim, but as if it was said, Bekerev Shnayim Chayeyu. When two people come close together, and they would share one cloak, one blanket, Chayeyu, give us life. Al tikre Bekerev Shanim, ela Bekiruv Shnayim. When two people come close together, please give Talmidei Chachamim a little bit more geld.
We're going to read this on the second day, Shavuos.
I mean the Haftarah. One day we'll have Gemaras about Chavakuk. He was, Amad Chavakuk v'himidon al achas. The Gemara Makis. Tzadik b'menasa yechya.
What Mofrei Rabav again?
Schmaltz merchants, grease merchants.
I looked at that quickly. I thought it said Mofrei Rechav.
Yeah, I know. And I looked at you and I thought about grease merchants.
Monkeys is the term.
Your mama, she always puts his foot in his mouth.
And the delicious food. You should try it sometime.
I'll tell you a mice about Tzaddik Be'emunasa Yechya. It's a Rav's nightmare that he writes a ksuva, and it's a fancy ksuva. People pay money for a fancy ksuva. And when it's a fancy ksuva, then you're really very careful. You don't make a mistake, because you make a mistake, they can't use it. So I filled out this really gorgeous ksuva, and the aide comes to sign. Now, some rabbanim have the aide sign on a piece of paper first to see that he knows how to spell his name. But Rav Palm was very stern not to do that. He says, because you're worried of the ksuva, you're mavaza somebody, that he doesn't know how to spell his name. So this person signs his name, and he spells his name Tzvi Tzadik Vav Yud. It's not the name. That's not the way to spell the name. The way to spell the name is Tzadik Vez Yud. Huh?
How's that possible?
So I'm looking. I had to write a new ksuva. So I told him afterwards that a good way to remember is the Welt says that Tzvi is a acronym of Tzaddik Be'emunasa Yechya. It's a good way to remember. But, huh? Yeah. I mean, you laugh about it, but I was mortified. Because, first of all, it was a complicated ksuva. The chassan had 3 names. The kala had 3 names. Not with the names of the Aiden. You really can, but since we're living in a Welt where people take the ksuva to mekubalim, and then, that's why it was crossed out. That's why you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. So, but anyway, I don't know. It's possible that Ruvain or Irving or maybe Mel was by this chasana but it wasn't recently. It was a while ago. But I remember and the chassan's mother was so upset because it was such a gorgeous ksuva. The ksuva was probably hundreds of dollars. There's nothing you could do. No, it wasn't handwritten, but it's the border. It had flowers. It had really nice flowers that were boilet. It was a beautiful ksuva.
Can't the person spell his name the way he wants?
So I asked him afterwards, and he said, I think you're right. I think I was supposed to spell it the other way. Okay. Lamaisa is, I got over it, It says, Leka ksuva de lespa tigra. There's no chassan that doesn't have a problem. Let that be the problem, Let that be the problem. I'll tell you a better maisa that I heard from, I don't know why I'm so calm and cool over here. I'm giving a chumash here and it's late. I don't know. But anyway, the Rabbeinu Shalom leads these shiurim, I'll tell you my the Rabbi Wein says over. Rabbi Wein was by a chasana, and the Masad Kedushin was the Rav Soloveitchik. And Rav Soloveitchik, there was this huge fancy ksuva, and the Rav didn't like the nusach. There's a different nuschos, you see. Some nuschos that says, Bein b'chaye, bein b'misa. Whatever it is. He didn't like the nusach. And Rabbi Wein said he took the ksuva and he went like this. He tore it. He tore all ksuva. And the chassan gasped the father of the chassan gasped, and Rabbi Wein saw that there was no other ksuva. What's he going to do? So the Rav said to go into the caterer's office and bring out a piece of paper. And by heart, he wrote the ksuva. He wrote the whole ksuva. And then he told the chassan, who was shaken up, he says, don't worry, this is going to be worth a lot more one day. That's what he told him. And it's a museum piece, that piece. People have taken photocopies of it. And it's a museum piece. He said to him, don't worry, Daiganish. It's all a question of how you look at things. Anyway, V'amar Rabbi Lo by Uvrachia, Shnei Talmidei Chachamim ha'mahalchim b'derech, two Talmidei Chachamim that are walking on the road, ve'ein beineim divrei Torah, and they're not talking Torah together. They're not talking Torah together. Ru'uyin li'saref, they deserve to be burnt. Bittul Torah is not a small matter, anytime, but traveling on the road, which is not safe, right? And you don't take the opportunity to learn Torah, they deserve to be burnt b'eish. They were walking, haloich v'daber, walking and talking, v'inei rechev eish, and a chariot of fire passed between them, and it didn't hurt them. Says the Gemara, Taima, that's only because they were talking and learning. Haleka diber, if they weren't talking and learning, ru'yan lisaref. That we do say in our Kriya Shema, and we say it every day, twice a day, at least. So, see, usually I say Kriya Shema at least 5 times a day. Because I say Kriya Shema early, because I daven in the mornings after the Zman Kriya Shema. So I say Kriya Shema early. I get up earlier, I say Kriya Shema. Then I say Kriya Shema during davening. Then I say Kriya Shema with my Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. Then I say Kriya Shema by Mariv. And then I say Kriya Shema, we daven Mariv before. So I say Kriya Shema again. So it's at least 5 times. So 5 times we say Uvalechtecha v'derech. So I told people that when they travel in the car and they told me they listen to Rush Limbaugh, or to Sean Hannity, I said, something, you should get yourself some of Rabbi Wein's CDs, or some of Rabbi Reisman Shiurim, or even Rabbi Moshe Me'awai Shiurim, and be Mekayim of V'lechta Chavaderech. Staten Islanders know, I heard he was in Staten Island by Mel Zachter. Staten Islanders know very well Rabbi Stanley Branfeld. Rabbi Stanley Branfeld used to make a siyum on Shas in his car. And he was very, very close to Rav David. Rav David would come to his car, and they would have a minyan, and he would make a siyum on Shas, because traveling in his car, he finished Shas. V'amar Rabbi Loi by Yevarechia, Shnei Talmidim Chacham Madorim Bi'ir Achas. Is this Nagel Ma'aser Rabbi say? Ooh. 2 Talmidei Chacham who live in a city ve'ein noichen zel lezeh b'halacha, and they don't get along with one another in halacha. They don't have a dialogue between them. It could lead to echad meis ve'echad geila. One will die and one will be exiled. The Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't like that. In the 3rd volume of the Kol Kisvei Chavetz Chaim, I once said this over at a Vada Rabbanim meeting. The Chavetz Chaim said, how could Rabbanim in a town expect their constituents to embrace peace if they are not in peace with one another? How could that be expected? That's what the Chavetz Chaim writes. You have to know that it's a big nisayon. The halacha is that this is a halacha in Lashon Hara, that if you have 2 pizza shops in a town, you can't speak to one pizza owner about the other pizza owner. Because it's invariable that you're going to hear Lashon Hara. Oh, him, I was here before him and he came and he took so much business. What are you talking about, him? Do you ever notice the prices that he charges? You can't do it. So what about Rabbanim? Rabbanim are competing for Balabatim. But they don't have a choice. They have to get along. Because if they don't get along, how could they expect their Balabatim to get along? And here the Gemara is very stern, that if the two Talmidei Chacham don't get along in the city, so one will die and one will be exiled. Shenemar, lanus shama reitzeach, to flee there, the murderer, asher yirtzach es re'eyu, who killed his friend, bivli das, because there was no Torah between them, there was no understanding between them. So one will be killed and one will have to run away, be exiled. Vein das el Torah, and das refers to Torah. Shenemar, nidmu ami, my nation was silent, mibli hadas, without knowledge. Every time a chacham that's Isaac b'Torah, it's very nice to have 29 Zoomers here this evening. As we welcome in Yeshua Shmuel, it's good to see you, Yeshua Shmuel. We've been missing you. And Yehuda from Har Nov. What time is it in Har Nov? Har Nov?
4 in the morning.
Was it 6 hours or 7 hours? 7.
4 in the morning.
It's late. It's late. 10 after 4 in the morning. It's late. I always tell the people I give a share very early in the morning for people that are in Har Nov. Rabbi say it's a ma'aseh that I've told over in the past. I'm not sure if my shver heard this from me. Maybe. It's a ma'aseh that I tell over that my father, Olav Shalom, he used to, when I had my shir on the radio, on WNYM radio, I paid $800 a week for the radio time. No, it was $800. No, $800 a month. But in those days, my rent was $450 a month. So you get an idea what $800 was. And how did I raise the money? I used to say on the phone, please support the share. And people would send in checks in the mail. And they would send in nice letters. So I would sometimes save the letters and bring them to my father. He had a letter opener, and he enjoyed sitting, and he got nachas reading the letters. So I bring them to him. And one time he asked me, you're sending out tapes. There was the early years of sending out the tapes. What's your vision? So I told him my vision is that one day, at any time of the day or the night, somebody will be listening to my Torah, even on Shabbos. That's what I told him. And he looked at me. On Shabbos? You want to teach Mechalei Shabbos? So I said, no. For me it'll be Shabbos, but for them it won't be Shabbos. And that's the way it is now. I remember I had some shiurim that when, for example, if it's before a Yom Tov, so I would record several Mishnah Yomis, and I would be uploading right before Yom Tov. And one of the technicians happened to be working, and he called me up and he said, what are you uploading right before Yom Tov for? I said, for the people in California that it's not Yom Tov yet. And other people. You don't realize, it's a whole world out there. Anyway, this is no good, I'm talking too much.
We're enjoying it.
Well, thank you. It's taking my mind off that my voice is still very scratchy. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Bereid Rabbi Kia, but Kol Tam Chacham Oisik B'Torah Mitoichet Chak. Talmidei Chachamim that learn Torah under poverty. Now, you would think that somebody like me, a spoiled American kid, would not have seen this. But I have to tell you a memory of my youth. My 7th grade Rebbe, who I owe a tremendous amount to, and my whole family owes a tremendous amount to, my 7th grade Rebbe in Yeshiva Tiferes Torah in Borough Park was Rabbi Michal Miller. Rabbi Michal Miller was a nephew of Rabbi Victor Miller. He was like Rabbi Victor Miller, a tremendous man.
Just me?
Huh?
No, it's not.
Is this Rabbi Mintz that he mentioned, Rabbi Mintz?
You can't hear me now?
And now it's back.
We lost you when the Rav said about a 7th grade Rebbe.
Yeah, so my 7th grade Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Michal Miller. He was Rabbi Victor Miller's nephew. He's the one that introduced me to the Yeshiva of Staten Island, that got me into Yeshiva of Staten Island. He actually skipped me from 7th to 9th grade to get me into the Yeshiva of Staten Island. And I used to learn with him every Shabbos. I used to walk to his house and learn with him Shabbos afternoon. And he had a bunch of young kids. And there was one of his children was on the ground and munching on a crayon. So I jumped out of my chair, big hero. I pulled the crayon out of the child's mouth, and the child started crying, the mother came out, and I figured that I would be applauded as a hero. And the Rebbe said, it's non-toxic, the child's hungry. And he meant it. And I'll never forget that I said to myself, it's amazing people that live bedachkis.
Something with the internet is just on and off.
What should I do? Should I go without picture?
Keep skipping.
Boy, what's going on tonight? We have the Chumash here also. What? Am I clear now?
Not really. It's very unstable.
It's very, yeah.
Has it been the whole time or just all of a sudden?
I don't know. But the Rav is in the regular place. Why?
Yeah, I'm in my regular place. Well, why? It's the Yetzer Hara. Do you think I should shut the pictures? Would that help? Let me see.
On my computer is saying that the Rav's bandwidth is low.
Yeah, I wonder if I go on. I wonder if I put on. I wonder if I put on my cell phone. Okay. You know, when you have a lot to do, this is what happens. Personal hotspot, maximize compatibility. Okay. Let's see. Owner's iPhone. Connect. Okay, Rabbi say, is it better now?
Yes.
It is. Everybody, is it better? still in and out.
Yeah, is it a setting? Is there anything different about the internet? About maybe the device on the ceiling?
No.
Maybe it's not transmitting.
Is there a blue light on that device over there? Could you see up that frying saucer over there? Does it look lit up? Could you see? Is there any light there? I wonder if the battery went out on that. I'm not clearer because I went on my phone? Rabbi Kranz.
No, it was clear at most of the time, just at the very beginning, and then the past few minutes.
Now, how is it now?
Right now, it's okay.
Okay, so then let me know if we have problems, because I'm on a different band now. Now I'm on the band of my phone. Okay. So
All we heard was that he took a crayon out of a jar.
yeah, so the fact of the matter is that I took the crayon out of the mouth of the child, and he told me, it's non-toxic. What would be so bad? That's what he told me. And I realized that they didn't have food. They lived b'dachkas. And people learn Torah b'dachkas. You would think that that's only a story that, Saba, my shver, would tell from Europe. But it's not just in Europe. People lived in America b'dachkas too. Anyway, the Gemora says, am I clear now? Hello?
So far, so good.
What?
So far, good.
Okay. Let me know. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Berei Rabbi Kirchhoff, Talmud Chacham Oisik B'Torah M'Teichak Tefillah Nishmas. His tefillah is heard. Shnemar Ki Im B'Tzion Yoshav. If they dwell in Zion, Ki Am B'Tzion Yoshav B'Yerushalayim, and they dwell in Yerushalayim. B'chol Lo Sifke. Do not cry. Chanon Yochnecha. The gracious one will show you favor. L'kol zakacha, to the voice of your cry, kishem asay anach. When he hears you, he will answer you. V'ksiv basrei v'nasan Hashem lochem lechem tsar. When Hashem gives you bread of poverty, umayim lachas, and water under pressure. So, and if even so, you learn in Zion, you learn Torah in Zion, Hashem, and you learn it in poverty, then Hashem will answer your cries. So it's an interesting thing that a person says to go to a tzaddik, to a Talmud Chacham, but there's a special power of somebody who lives under duress and still learns. Rabbi Avo, if somebody learns in poverty, they make him satisfied from the splendor of the Shechina. Your eyes will behold your master. Never will the curtain be closed before him. He won't be shut out. The curtain won't shut him out. As it says, your master will not be covered with a knaf, with a cloak, with a corner of the garment. Hashem, nothing will block you from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Reb Shimon Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua, from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, there's no day that there's no curse. And says the Gemara, every day is worse than the day before. The further we get away from the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Rava.
How are we supposed to understand this on a simple level?
Well, the way we can't understand it is because we don't see the whole world. But if we saw a picture of the whole world, we'll see that things are slowly deteriorating from day to day.
Even though it doesn't seem to have an effect on us.
We're just a small piece of the world. And we don't know how we would be if there would be a Beis Hamikdash. So it's very hard to see this. Every day, the curse is worse than the day before. In the morning we say, would it be evening? In the evening we say, would it be morning? Now, which morning are we asking for? Hey, Biker. Tomorrow. Why are we asking for tomorrow? It might be worse. Ella the Chalaf. In the evening we say we wish it was yesterday's morning, because every day is worse than the day before. Then what holds up the world? Two special things. Kedusha the Sidra, the Kaddish that we say in the Volotzion, because there we say Kaddish, and we translate Kaddish, Kaddish al Aroi v'Gevurte, Kaddish lo Olam Ol Me'almaya. We translate it, so we have both the schus of praising Hashem and limud Torah, and vayeheshmei Rabbah the agadta, and the Yeheshmei Rabbah that we say the Kaddish Rabbanan. That's why I'm always asking people to say Kaddish Rabbanan, because it's one of the greatest schusim. Because again, you have praise of Hashem and limud Torah in synthesis. Shenemar Eretz Ofsa, it's a land that's black. K'may Eifel, dark. Tzalmavis, the shadow of death. V'loy Sidarim, you don't have the two Sidarim, the Sidra the agadta and the Sidra of Kedusha. Hayesh Sidarim, if there is Sidarim, if there is this chus, Teifiu me'eifel, there's a shine from darkness. V'lo yared tal livracha, there's no dew of blessing. V'nitel tam peris, and the taste of fruit is taken away. Tani Reb Shimon Lazar Aimer, Tara, with the end of Tara, people used to eat even chulun b'Tara. With the end of Tara, batla tam v'reach. With the end of Tara, this stops the taste and the smell of fruit. With the end of Meiser, beetle shuman dagan. The richness of the crops and the nutritious value ended. Rav Huna, this is a famous Gemora. Rav Huna ashkach trumrasa dechinunusa. He found a very rich date, a geschmacka date. Shakla, he took it, karcha besudre, and he wrapped it up in his turban. Karcha besudre, he wrapped it up in his turban. And Asa Rabba Bray, Rabba his son came, Amalei morchina recha dechinunusa. I smell the smell of a rich date. Now, in order to appreciate that, smell is a hana of the neshama. And Rav Huna was very excited that his son was able to appreciate it. Amalei b'ni tarabach. That means there's purity in you. So he took it, and instead of eating it, he gave it to his son. Yava nihale. Adahachi. In the meantime, Asa Abba Bray. His grandson, Rabba's son Abba, came, and the father went ahead, Shakla Yava Nihali, and Rabba gave it to his son Abba. Amalei, so the Zayda said, Rav Huna said, B'ni, samachta es libi, you bring joy to my heart that I see that you have Tara, but v'kisi es shinai, it's like you knocked out my teeth, because instead of giving it to your father, you give it to your son. The love of a father is for his son. And the love of the son is to his son. In other words, even though you would think it's natural that he should reciprocate to his father, but there's a greater love for the son than for the father. I heard Rav Shraga Feivel, not Rav Shraga Feivel, from Far Rockaway. Who's the Rav in Far Rockaway?
Rabbi Fein?
No, from years ago. Rav Freifeld. Rav Shlomo Freifeld, thank you. Rav Shlomo Freifeld bemoaned the fact that everybody has pictures on their wall of their children and of their children's chasanas, of their grandchildren, but they don't have pictures of their parents. Says that's the way it is. You have pictures of your children, you don't have pictures of your parents. Where will you be without your parents? Right? Now, the Welt says, why is it? It's very natural. Why is it natural? Because the first man had no parent. So in the DNA of a person, there's a love for a child, but not love for a parent. Because Adam Rishon didn't have a parent. He had a child. Rav Achbar Yaakov, Itapel baby Rab Yaakov Bar Brate. Oh, this is such an interesting story. You can't hear me, Rabbi Kranz?
No. I got to mute myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You see, I hear you right away. You can't play tricks with me, you know. This is taking too long. I'm sorry, Rabbi Say. Rav Achbar Yaakov Itapel baby Rab Yaakov Bar Brate. Rav Achbar Yaakov raised his grandson, Rav Yaakov. Ki Gadol, when the grandson grew up, Amalei, so the Zayda asked him, Ashkian Maya, could you get me some water? Amalei, Lav Brichana, I'm not your son, I don't have a chiyuv of kibbut avayim. Ask your children. What are you asking me for? V'hainu de imre inchi, that's what people say, Ravi, raise me, but don't forget Bar Bratachana. I'm the son of your daughter. I'm not your son. And Rabbi say this is normal. This is normal. People expect, but they don't necessarily reciprocate. And I think that the Gemora is telling us this, that we shouldn't think that there's something wrong. It's normal. This by the way, another example of this. I'm not saying it from experience, because Baruch Hashem, my new children are wonderful to me. But you could treat a stepchild like your own child, but they could tell you back, "You're not my father." That's normal. You have to expect that.
It might be normal, but it probably is not right.
Well, of course it's not right.
Basic. Yeah. It might be normal, but it's not right. Something.
Yeah.
If go back there.
Yeah.
That's supposed to go from.
Yeah. Rabbi Krantz, the first Maisa wasn't right either. But that's the way, like my Shver said, that's revenge. No, what we're saying about stepchildren, he's saying that's not right.
Lacking in chinuch.
Yeah, Einochanami. Look, where Moshe Rabbeinu didn't hit the ground because it saved him when he was, when the ground hit the mitzvah. He didn't hit the water because it saved him, and the water is an inanimate object. So Hakar Satayv knows no bounds. There's a proper way, and then there's what's normal. Okay, now we.
That's the answer.
Yeah, to my son's class. Bepulma shel Aspinus. Now we know that Vespasian set siege to Yerushalayim. When Vespasian was appointed the emperor of Rome, so he sent his son Titus, who continued the siege and who would eventually destroy Yerushalayim. So there were gezeres because of the worsening situation in Klal Yisrael. So Bepulma shel Aspinus, during the siege of Vespasian, Gazru al Torah Chasanim, they were geyser that the Chasin couldn't wear a crown anymore. Ve'al ha'iris, and they canceled using a bell. They used to celebrate with a bell at the Chasanas. They stopped using a bell. Bepulma shel Titus, when it got worse, and Titus set siege, Gazra Torres Kalas, they decreed that the Kala can't wear a crown. V'shelo yilmad adam es b'nai Yavanis, and you shouldn't teach your son Greek code. This was a special Greek code that the aristocracy used, and they stopped teaching them Greek code. But Pulmus Achron and the final siege, which resulted in the destruction of the bias, Gazru Shaloi Teitze Akala Barbarian, that the Kala used to be taken out in a type of a canopy. They would march her through the streets in a canopy. They were mavatal that. However, they were matter taking the Kala out in this Aperian because it was tzniistic. When Rameya passed away, the people that knew how to make Mishalim ceased to exist. There stopped to be Masmidim. Ben Zayma was the last of the great Darshanim that knew how to be Dairish things from Psukim. Rabbi Kiva Batul Kavod Torah. When Rabbi Kiva passed away, the Kavod Torah that Rabbi Kiva used to know how to darshan every crown, tilim shalalachas from every tag in the Sefer Torah stopped. Mishemesh Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa, Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa, the great miracle worker. You talk about a Baal Meifus. He was the Talmudic Baal Meifus. Mishemesh Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa Batlu Anshe Maisa. Rashi gives us stories over here. Rashi tells us that a woman came to him and said that she bought beams for her roof and they're too small, so it doesn't reach from one end to the other. So he said, "What's your name?" So she said her name is Aiku. So he said, "Aiku, let the beams reach," and the beams stretched. That was Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa, the famous Maisa with his daughter. She came, Tati, I put in the wrong stuff in the candles. Instead of oil, I put vinegar. He says, Mi sheyaymer shebed sheyadlik, hu sheyaymer l'chaymet sheyadlik. Then there was a Maisa that they came and they told him that his animals were grazing in other people's fields. So his goats were grazing in other people's fields. So he said, if my goats were grazing in other people's fields, they should be eaten by wolves. And if they aren't, then they should come home with wolves on their horns. And every goat came home with a wolf on his horn. I mean, so this is, what do you expect? Where's Marshall? What happened to Marshall? He left? I think I'm taking too long over here. Mishmeis Reb Yossi Katointa, when Reb Yossi the small passed away, Pasku Chasidim, the pious people ceased to exist. He was the smallest of the pious people. The shine of Chachma. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai knew everything. There wasn't anything that he didn't learn, and he understood the language of the birds and how to interpret the rustling of the trees. He knew everything. Until Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken, people learned standing. After him, there was a weakness in the world, and they had to sit. Omeisa Tara or precious. What? Yeah, but I told you it was a different Kavod HaTorah. The Kavod HaTorah by Rabbi Akiva was the Tagin, and the Kavod HaTorah over here was the fact that people sat after him when they were learning. That's why I explained it differently. Omeisa Taro, precious, and purity and precious, people abstaining from even that which was mutter, ended. Mishemeis Rabbi Shmuel ben Fabi Batla Ziva Kahuna. There ended the glory of the Kahuna. Rabbi Shmuel ben Fabi used to support a lot of Kohanim at his table, and with him ended the glory of the Kahuna. Mishemeis Rebbe, when Rebbe passed away, Batal Anava v'Yirascheit. There ended humility and fear of sin. Tan Rabbanan, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, Mishacharuv Beis HaMikdash, when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Bushu Chaverim u'Bnei Chayrim, the Torah scholars and the free men of good genealogy, they had good yichus, they were embarrassed. They were treated as nothing. V'chafu roishim, and they had to hide their head in shame. V'nidaldalu anshe ma'aseh, and people of good deeds became lower. The Gavru Balei Zraya or Balei Lashon, and it was only people that might makes right, and people that knew were bold and spoke. Ve'ein Dairish, nobody sought to solve the problem. Ve'ein Mavakesh, nobody was able to pray to stop it. Ve'ein Shoyel, there was no one to ask. This sounds like today. Mamish like today. Today, the liberal people, they're the ones listened to. I mean, they're doing every atrocity and every immorality. Al milanu lo yishayin, who could we rely on? Al avinu sheb'shmayim. Rav Elazar Gadol Miyam Shechar Beis HaMikdash. There was from the time that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, there was a lowering of respect. The great sages were treated like school teachers. The Safraya kechaznaya, and the school teachers were treated like the Shamish. The Chaznaya ke'amadara, and the Shamish was treated like an Amoritz. The Amadara, and the level of ignorance, Osla went. Osla Vidildala, the level of ignorance deteriorated. Ve'ein shoyel, ve'ein mavakish. There's nobody to ask. There's nobody to seek out to change the situation. Yal mi yesh l'ishayin, who is there to rely on Alavinu sheb'shamayim? Be'ikvas Mashiach, at the time of Mashiach, chutzpah yaska. There'll be more brazenness. There'll be more chutzpah. V'yoykir yama. It's like I told you from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. He said he was in Muncie, and he was in a store on Sukkot. He was holding an esrog, and somebody said to him, "You took my esrog." So he said in Europe he would show him the door. Here he just gave him his esrog. Chutzpah Yaskin, that was at the time of Rabbi Yaakov, 60 years ago. V'yoykir yamer, and there'll be terrible inflation. Hagefen titein pirya. The vine will produce grapes, but the wine will still be expensive because there'll be so much drinking. And the government will become a government of heresy, no belief in God. And there's no way to rebuke. There's nobody that listens to any rebuke. Beis Vad, the place where used to be meeting of Torah, Yil is Nus, it will be used for places of immorality. Vagolul Yechrav, the Golul will be destroyed. Vagavlan, which is a place in the south of Eretz Yisrael, Yoshim will be desolate. Va'anshe Hagvul Yisayvu Me'ir Le'ir, the people that lived on the borders had to vacate the borders because it's not safe, and they'll wander Me'ir Le'ir from city to city, V'lo Yechanenu, and they won't be shown favor. The Chachmai Seifrim Nederes, and the wisdom of Torah learners is going to be.
You skipped a line.
No, I didn't.
The Chachmai Seifrim Tisrach.
I'm saying that. The Chachmai Seifrim Tisrach and the wisdom of Seifrim will spoil. V'yirei chet yimasu, and those that are fear of sin will be detested. V'emes tein nederes, and truth will be withheld. Narim pnei zekenim yalbinu, the youth will shame the elderly. Zekenim yamdu mipnei ketanim, the elderly will stand up for the young, because that's the way people think that they know better. The more modern know better. The newer is better. Ben menavel of, a son will insult his father. Bas kama be'ima, the daughter will get up against her mother. Kala b'chamaisa, the bride will get up against her mother-in-law. Oive ish anshe beisa, the people of the household will be their enemies. Pnei adar ke pnei akelev, the face of the generation will be the face of a dog. Some learn that this means that just like a dog is a very cheap animal and doesn't share, it will be a generation that will not be kind. Others learn, the famous word of Rav Elchanan Wasserman, that just like a dog is always turning back to its master, so the leaders of the generation will be like a dog, and that they'll always be turning back to make sure what they say is all right with their mispalim. They take censuses in order to know what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. They have to be politically correct. His son is not embarrassed from his father. Hey, what could we rely on? We only could have put our trust al Avinu shebashamayim. When we say that a chassan couldn't wear a crown, that's only made out of like a stone from salt and with engravings of sulfur. But a crown of myrtle and of rose, mutter. However, it's even forbidden a crown of myrtle and a crown of rose. Mutter. But of reed and of bulrushes, that's permitted. Even of reed and bulrushes is forbidden. All kinds of crowns, even out of reeds and out of bulrushes, is awesome. Vala iris, what's an iris? What musical instrument? My iris. Rabbi Lazar tabla dechad puma, a bell with one clapper. Rabbi Barafuna ovidle lebrei tanbura. Rabbi Barafuna made for his son by his cousin a tambourine. Asa avua tavre. His father came and broke it. Amalei, he said, don't use a tambourine, mikla tabla dechad puma, because then people will start using a bell. You could make a drum. Zil avalei apuma dechatzba, take a barrel and stretch something over the barrel to make a drum, or apuma de kapiza, or on the mouth of a pitcher. But puma shel titis gazwal atoris kalis, in the siege of Titus, they decreed on crowns of brides. My atoris kalis, what are the crowns of brides? It's a tiara with a picture of Yerushalayim of gold, like that Rabbi Kiva made for his wife. Tanya Nami Hochi, Ezel Atoris Kalis, Ir Shel Zav, a city of gold. Aval Oisa Isa Kipa Shel Melis, but you could make for a fine crown out of wool. Tana Afal Chupas Kasanim Gazru, they also decreed against the chuppah that they took the chassan out with. My chuppahs chasanim zahiris hamazuhavos. That's a scarlet cloth with gold in it. Tani namihachi eluein chuppahs chasanim zahiris hamazuhavos. Red with gold. Aval oisa papris. You could make it out of reeds, like a lattice. V'toila b'kol mashiyutz, and hang from it decorations. How are we doing? Are we clear? Hello?
Yeah, we're good.
That's good. At least somebody's good. Should Rabbi say thank you for staying so long? You shouldn't teach your son the Greek code. Tan Rabbanan. This was a terrible time in Klal Yisrael. When Yanai Alexander, that monster, died, his wife, who was the sister of Shimon ben Shattach, took over. When she passed away, the kingship was going to go to Hyrcanus, her older son. But her younger son, Aristobulus, didn't want to give it over. And it caused a civil war. Aristobulus was on the inside and Hyrcanus was on the outside. When the kings of the Chashmonaim warred with one another, and by the way, this is a great grandchild of Yehuda Maccabi. Great-great-grandchild. Hercules was on the outside, Varistablis b'mifnim, and Aristablis was on the inside. Umalan lahem tamidim. Now, excuse me. B'chol yom v'yom, every day, hayim dinarim b'kupa. There was a siege, so they had no animals in Yerushalayim, but they were all Yidden, so they all wanted the tamid to be offered in the Beis Hamikdash. So they would lower coins down in a basket, and they would send up 2 sheep for the carbon tamid. There was somebody on the inside that wanted the siege to be over, and he knew how to speak Greek code. He sent them like in Morse code. As long as they could bring the carbon tamid, you won't win. So the next day, they sent down coins in a basket, and instead of sending up a sheep, they sent up a pig. When it reached half the height of the wall, the pig stuck its claws, its nails, into the wall. There was an earthquake for the whole Eretz Yisrael. Cursed is a person who raises swine, who raises pig. And, okay, the next challenge. Gotta plug this in before we lose this. Okay. Or a person who raises chazerim, and the adam sheyilmud l'bnei chacham yivanis. And curse is a person who teaches the Greek code. Val oisa shana shaninu, on that year it was taught ma'aso ba'omer megagay srifim. There was such a lack of food that the omer, which usually was brought right next to the Beis Hamikdash, they had to go very far to Gagay Strifim to find barley from the omer. Ushtei alechem, and the shtei alechem, it's interesting that, right before Shavuos, we learned about the shtei alechem. Ushtei alechem, and because Ein Seicher, they had to get the wheat from as far as the valley of Ein Seicher. Says Gemora, Ini, is it true that they said you can't speak Yavanis? V'amar Rebbe, be'eretz Yisrael, Lashon Sursi Lama. In Eretz Yisrael, why did they have to speak the dialect of Sursi, which was a type of slang of Aramaic? Iloshin Kodesh, either speak Hebrew, Iloshin Yavanis, which was a beautiful language. Yafyuvsai shel Yefes, Yavan Shema. V'amar Rav Yosef B'Bava Lashon Arami Lama. Why do they have to speak Aramish? Ela oy Lashon Kodesh, oy Lashon Parsi. Either speak Lashon Kodesh or Persian. So you see that they did speak Greek. Says the Gemara, Lashon Yavani l'chud v'chachmas Yavanis l'chud. Greek language is okay. The code of Greek, that's not okay. Says the Gemara, v'chachmas Yavanis mi'asira. Is Greek code aser? What is that which is written in the pasuk? My eyes become deformed because I mourn over myself. They become deformed from all the crying. From all the daughters of my city. My father had 1,000 youth in his house. Talmidim. 500 learned Torah. And 500 learned Greek code. We'll see that they were occupied in the palace. And there was nothing left from them because of the war. I hear, and my nephew in Asia. So you see that they did learn Greek Chachmas Yavanis. Says they did it because they were involved with the government to help Klal Yisrael. The Tanya Misper Kumi, the Goyish haircut called Blurius, which is they had a line from ear to ear, and in front was bald, and in the back was a lot of hair. That was called Misper Kumi. That's a haircut that's forbidden because of the ways of the Goyim. Avtulas ben Ruvain, but Avtulas ben Ruvain, hitiru l'saper kumi, they permitted him to have such a haircut, shukav l'malchus, because he dealt with the government, so he had to be able to fit in. Shel beis Reb Gamliel hitiru lehem chachmas Yavanis, and also the house of Reb Gamliel, they permitted chachmas Yavanis, mipnei shekroivim l'malchus. The pulmas ha'achron, Gazru, boy, we're really ending this Masechta with a bang. The pulmas ha'achron, Gazru shaloi teitze kalabar period, the last siege of Titus, which destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, they decreed that a kala should not go out under a chuppah. However, then they said it's allowed. My time. Why did they reverse it? Mishum tznius, so that the kala should have modesty. Mishemeis Reb Yochanan Batla HaChachma, Tan Rabbanan, Mishemeis Reb Eliezer Nigna Sefer Torah. Reb Eliezer, who they say his two arms were like the two Atzei Chaim of a Sefer Torah, Reb Eliezer knew everything. So when he was buried, the Sefer Torah was buried. Mishemeis Reb Yeshua Batal Eitza or Machshava. When Reb Yeshua passed away, there ceased good counsel and thought. Rabbi Yeshua used to debate the Goyim. He knew how to defeat them in debates. Mishemeis Rabbi Akiva Batlu Zroei Torah, the arms of the Torah ceased to exist. V'nistatnu Mayonas HaChachma, and the fountains of wisdom got sealed. Mishemeis Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was tremendously wealthy, he used to give 12,000 animals a year as meiser. Batlu Ataras Chachma, the crown of wisdom seized. Shataras Chachamim Ashram, the crown of wisdom is wealth. Mishemeis Rechadina ben Daisa, like we said, Batlu Anshe Meiser, they seized men of wonder, men of miracles. Mishemeis Abba Yosi ben Katnusa Batlu Chasidim, they passed away the pious. V'lama Nikrishmai Abba Yosi ben Katainta, Shehaya Miktane Chasidim, they used to be even greater than him. Mishemeis ben Azai Batlu Ashaktanim, they seized the Masmidim. Mishemeis ben Zayna Batlu Atarshanim, those who knew how to dash. And remember, we say in the Haggadah, Lo Yizichisi Shetaimah Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilas Ad Shedarsha ben Zayma. Mishemeis Reb Shimon Gamliel Ola Guvay, there came attacks of locusts, of grasshoppers. V'rabu Tzaras, and more distress on Klal Yisrael. Mishemeis Rebbe Huchbalu Tzaras, there's even more Tzaras. Now, I'm sorry, I know that you'll complain, but the last two lines we save for tomorrow night. I will tell you, Rabbi Say, that tomorrow night the daf will be a lot quicker. We're going from agadta to not agadta, but on the other hand, we're going from a daf that's the size of maybe 3 dafim to more manageable dafim. So now we're going to count Sfira, Rabbi Say. We're going to count Sfira. Wish we had a minion. Let's just do over here. Sotah Daf. Just give me a second. Shem Yekod Sheberecha Shente B'Tchila Rechim Eliyachad Shem Yod Kei B'Vavchei Shem Kol Yisrael. Ani Mochanim Zim L'Kayim Mitzvus Asei Shel Sfira Saimer K'may Shekos B'Tayra